All right, there you go. And again, I want to thank Rabbi Yitz for hosting, doing all the technical work. We have such very special people on tonight. We'll give it a few more moments, and I want to share with you a fascinating new endeavor. I was on a conference call earlier today with approximately 250 people. I didn't even know that Zoom can host so many people, but apparently it was pretty cool. And you had from all over the world rabbis and educators from literally every continent, a lot from the Holy Land, and they shared a similar united type of idea that they're going to be blasting out. That I think it's very special. We want to kind of start off with that video, and let me know what you guys think. It's Thursday night. Baruch Hashem, it's almost Shabbos, and as I heard earlier this week from one of the rabbis that I was listening to, he said it's fascinating that since the state of Israel was created, there's never been so many people in Israel keeping Shabbos. Literally, since the state of Israel was created, probably last Shabbos, if not even this Shabbos, you're right, it's not necessarily by choice, but at the end of the day, the amount of people that are keeping Shabbos, everything shut down, is just mind-boggling. And I think to hop on that and to kind of move forward, I'm going to ask Rabbi Yitz to play a video. And for those of you that can raise your volume a little bit, I'm not going to scream. I'll give you a little heads up when I start speaking. But here, Rabbi Yitz is going to share with you a fascinating video. It's a very short clip.
This is a moment of national emergency.
We're at war. You must stay at home.
I think it's something so special and so powerful, and you have so many Jews united and keeping Shabbos together. This was a incredible idea, and if we somehow could advance this forward and blast it out there to so many people, and that would inspire during this challenging time even more people to somehow disconnect to connect and to do whatever they can to prepare for Shabbat, which is coming up tomorrow night. I think will be so special. And the more Jews that we connect about this, believe it or not, is something so united of the Jewish people that it's so powerful to have everybody somehow keeping Shabbos together. It's so special, and I really hope that we can somehow advance that. I want to tell you that tonight there are so many people that we know from when I spoke to you guys last week. It was distant people that we know. Maybe somebody now, unfortunately, we're at a time when so many people we know have it. So many people have cousins and aunts and grandparents. Tonight, specifically, I want to dedicate tonight's Torah learning to Loa Zidman, whose sister's not well, Abigail Bas Yassel, Abigail Bas Rivka, and Hannah Zaretsky's grandparents, Stephanie Alberti's Zadie, her grandfather, Charles Cohen, and God willing, we should have closure in a good way where this thing comes to an end and people somehow grow from this to become incredible people where it doesn't just take them down, it doesn't affect them in a negative way, but we somehow move and we grow from this. I want to share with you a fascinating story that I saw this week from the Rambam known as Maimonides. Crazy story. He was, as everyone knows, he was a very famous physician, probably one of the most famous physicians that existed. He was the doctor for the Sultan in Egypt. And the story goes where a lot of the Royal Highness's advisors were very jealous that Maimonides was this prestigious position, and they always try to undermine him. So the advisors, one day they found a top doctor from a nearby town and they brought him to the Sultan. They said, what do you have to go with this Jewish guy, Moshe ben Maimon, this guy, the Maimonides? What do you have to use him? He's a Jew. Come, use one of our own people. And they went ahead and they showed the Sultan this top doctor. He said, he's also a top doctor. So the Sultan looks at the Maimonides. He says, listen, this guy claims he's a good doctor. I think you should have a showdown and go for it. Have a competition. So Maimonides says, okay, what does the guy want? So the non-Jewish doctor said the following. He says, listen, let's have a competition where we're each going to create a poison. And whoever drinks the poison, I'm going to make a poison. I'm going to give it to you. You're going to make a poison, give it to me. Whoever survives, that will be the ultimate doctor. Fine. So the Rambam says, okay, you go first, no problem. This non-Jewish doctor creates this crazy potion. It's a horrible, horrible poison. He gives it to Maimonides to drink. Maimonides makes a whole special mix beforehand. He takes it, he takes the medication, whatever the guy wants, the poison. And a few minutes later, Maimonides comes back after he drank it in front of them. And he comes back and Maimonides walking around. Nothing happened. They're blown away. Wow, this guy made this crazy potion. He was a very famous doctor in the lands of Egypt. And it didn't affect Maimonides. So the Sultan says to the Maimonides, he says, okay, now it's your turn. So Maimonides takes his mixture, whatever it was, and he gives it to the guy, and he takes the thing. The guy drinks the mix, and he goes home. Literally 2 days later, the guy comes back, and Maimonides comes back to Sultan, and the guy drops dead on the floor. The Sultan says, wow, you're a genius, unbelievable. He goes, listen, tell me, what was in your potion? He says, Your Highness, I want to tell you what was in my potion was a cup of water. He goes, what are you talking about? A cup of water? And they killed the guy, a cup of water? He says, you must have spiked the water. He says, I didn't spike the water. It was regular, 100% regular water. He says, 100% regular water? What are you talking about? He says, it's very simple. He says, I gave the guy a mixture of a regular cup of water, and I knew that the guy is going to think the whole time, they're like, oh my gosh, when's it going to happen? Is it going to affect me now? Is it going to start doing something where my stomach's going to hurt me now? And the guy couldn't sleep at night. He was so anxious, so uptight. It was got in his head. He didn't know when it's going to take place that it killed him. His anxiety killed him. That's what Maimonides in the 1200s, when he lived, was able to show the Sultan that when people believe in something so strong, even when they're taking a cup of water, it's going to affect them like crazy, so much that it can kill them. It's all in their head. It's all in their head. That's what Maimonides said. He was one of the first brilliant doctors so long ago. There's a very famous statement, and it says like this. The word besimcha, which means to be happy, besimcha in Hebrew, is the same word when you switch around the letters as the word machshava. Machshava means in your thought, what's in your head. So if a person's thinking that he's in a good mood, he'll be happy. But if he's thinking in his brain that he's upset and this and that, and even if it'll start affecting him. It's interesting. Again, you just switch around the letters because it's all the way than what you look at. You can look at something and see the glass half full, or you can look at it and say it's half empty, I don't like it, this and that. People can have negative connotations to so many things. It'll affect them. It'll bring their whole mood down. It's all in their machshava. But if their machshava is positive, if their thoughts are positive, then all you have to do is switch around the letters, and the same word spells out bisimcha, with being happy. It's a fascinating thing, which is the same idea as the word mikre in Hebrew. Mikre means it's a chance. It's like it's random. But if you switch around the letters, mikre, it spells rak me Hashem. The same letters, mikra in Hebrew, that means chance. It says rak me Hashem, which means it's only from Hashem. It's not a random thing. That means, again, anything that happens, people are like, oh, what's that? Hashem is making every single detail, everything like that is going on with a reason, not without a reason. Everything's no such thing in Judaism as a coincidence. I was speaking to a student, Ben Spivak, this week, and he told me which was a fascinating thing. It blew me out of the park. And he said, Rabbi, this is a time that people could reinvent who they are. They can reinvent themselves. It's so hard. We live in a bubble. We live in a place where we're always worried about what someone else is going to say. I have to be careful to not do this because someone's going to say I'm too extreme. People are scared to even putting on tefillin because, oh my gosh, what's my family member going to do? They're going to think of me as so crazy. But now
Thank you for the call out, Rabbi Fully.
We're living in a time where it's so easy to reinvent who you are, and no one's going to think, oh my gosh, the guy is so radical because he wants to keep Shabbat. What else are you doing? There's nothing else to do. You keep Shabbat. It's not like the parents are going to be like, oh my gosh, my kid's becoming too religious. Everyone is experiencing the same thing. Everyone is going through what we're going through. Even the parents. It's all a matter of how you look at what's going on and what you're interpreting everything. That's in our hands what to do. But I think it's so important to keep that in mind, that now's the time to reinvent of what type of Jew you want to be, how connected you want to be. Now is the time, not tomorrow, not in a few weeks. Now, what we're going through, it's the time right now. There's a very fascinating book. It's called the Book of Eov, one of the books in the Torah. It's a very mystical book, and it's a very challenging book. When if you just read it, a lot of it would be very hard to understand exactly what it's saying. But basically, it talks about a person, Job. The Book of Job, that's how you say it in English. He was somebody who was blessed with a lot, and the Sultan had an agreement with Hashem. The Satan, had an agreement with Hashem. It said, very nice, the person blesses you all the time because you gave him so much wealth. He has a beautiful family. He has tremendous health. It's very easy to be very religious in those terms. Try to maybe take something away, and then we'll see what happens. So God says, okay, Satan, you're on. And God struck Eov down. He took away his family. He took away his wealth. He gave him sickness. He literally crazy things. And even during those hard times, he was able to somehow always connect and say thank you, Hashem. Incredible thing. When you look through the book, the story of Job, of Eov, it says fascinating that no matter what he went through, and Hashem took away everything where even his face was covered with boils, the verse says he was taking some type of piece of shard and scratching off the boils that was on his face. That's how painful the guy was in. But I heard from Cal Nathan this week, one of my guys from Long Island. He said he heard from his rabbi. It's fascinating that one thing that Hashem did not take away from Eov was his friends. And if you read the book, his friends were able to come visit him and give him strength and pump him up and give him all the support that he needed. Hashem left him his friends. And it's fascinating, no matter what we're with today, what we're going through, we can barely go anywhere. Everything's closed. Our lives are in shock. There's nothing to watch on TV. The only thing that we have is social media, is our phones, our friends, our support group. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because at the same time chaos is going on in the world, you could have people getting coronavirus that are working in the bandwidth section for Comcast, and all of a sudden my internet's not working, it's freezing up. People could go nuts. But Baruch Hashem, it's working. And I think that's on purpose. Hashem is allowing us and teaching us that, again, you're right, we'll take away so much physical pleasure to people's, literally their savings are gone. It's scary times, scary stuff. But I'm leaving you, your friends, as a message for us that we have to do whatever we can to work on ourselves, to make better connections and to make amends of the people that somehow we didn't really, we owe a phone call to. We didn't talk so nicely. We didn't do things or whatever. Our personal connections with people, we have to strengthen that. That's what Hashem is leaving us. If he's leaving us that, we have to, again, starts at home, but we have to branch out and reach out to people that we haven't reached out to, that we know we should, that we have to fix up. I got in a fight with a person, I haven't spoken to them in 2 years. Doesn't make a difference. Now's the time. Again, it's not a coincidence. That's the only thing that we're having to do, is to connect with that. People look for the city of happiness. They don't realize that, again, it's all in the state of mind. I'm going to say that again. People look for the city of happiness. They don't realize that it's in a state of mind. If we're in a good place ourselves, we'll naturally spread to other people, we'll be positive. Everyone around us will be positive. But if we're negative, we're going to nonchalantly affect everybody, even in a, God forbid, in a negative way. I want to share with you a scary story that I read this week from one of these new books that I got. It's called Emunah Shleima, which means true faith. It's a relatively new story that just came out. There's a rabbi in Israel, his name is Rav Daniel Ochyan. And he wrote a book that they sell in the Jewish bookstores. It's called Or Daniel. And he says a story how a few years ago, there was approximately 7 boys that were learning in yeshiva in Israel that went to swim by the ocean, the Chof Hayam, in a place called Hadera, which is a location in Israel. And they went swimming there. Unfortunately, a tragedy struck, and one boy drowned instantly, and the other one was gone. They couldn't find him. 5 boys came back. There was trauma. They called Hatzalah. They called Mada. Everyone came down, and people were freaking out. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible tragedy. And they realized that the boy that was missing, where they couldn't find his body, was somebody who was an only child who lived in Tzfat. And his parents, not only did they only have this one son who now is gone, but they had him after trying to have kids for 12 years. For 12 years, they tried very hard to have children. They couldn't have children. And unfortunately, the child that they finally had was a teenager, and now he was gone. They called up the family. The parents came down. They were standing by the ocean. They were devastated. They were screaming and crying, and it was tragedy beyond belief. And after a few days of the family kind of just standing by the ocean and taking breaks and sending out divers, they found the body. It was far out in the ocean, and they found it. And they had a proper burial funeral. Unfortunately, the parents were so in a state of shock that the mother, the only thing that came out of the mother's mouth the entire time was, I'm going to say it in Hebrew, Madua lakachat et beineni yechidenu. Hashem, why did you take my only child that I had? Why did you take him? And she was heartbroken. The funeral took place in Tzfat, and the words that were coming out of the husband and wife was the following: Hashem, Ana Ribona Shel Olam, the creator of the world, Aseh lanu nes, make for us a miracle. Aseh lanu nes, make for us a miracle. People were freaking out. They were shocked. This was the saddest thing that happened in Tzfat in years. Shortly after the incident, after the Shiva, the husband and wife they didn't want to kind of stay at home and hunker down and just let this tragedy take them for the rest of their lives, but they wanted to kind of move forward. The father was a manager in a specific supermarket, and the mother was a teacher in a Jewish school. Obviously, it's in Israel. In a day school, she was teaching Tanakh. She was teaching Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, the Bible. And what she did was, she said, the least thing that we could do for our son during this tragedy is that when people come in the school, the day school, and they pray in the morning, I want to dedicate a bunch of sidurim, a bunch of prayer books. I want to be able to put my son's name in the book, so that my students, when they read from out of the prayer book in the morning, it'll be dedicated, have my son's name in the book. So she went ahead and she got sidurim, she got these special prayer books that had her son's name, that his soul should be elevated in heaven. And she gave it out to her class. But you can imagine in the morning service, one of the things that this lady, the mother, was teaching was the part that it says in davening in the beginning. It talks about the binding of Isaac. And the story of the binding of Isaac, as you know, where Abraham almost sacrificed his son Isaac, it says, Kachno es bincha es yichidcha asher ahavta. It says, Hashem says to Abraham, take the son that you love so dearly, your only son, and bring him up. When she read this part that's in the Siddur, she boiled and she burst out crying. Her life was just shaken up because God, unfortunately, Hashem took her son. It wasn't like Isaac, it was a test. Hashem took her child. Rabbi Daniel Achyan, this rabbi that's saying over the story, says when he found out about this tragedy, because he knew one of the other boys that survived this horrible incident, he traveled to Tzfat to meet the family that he did not know. And he came to Tzfat, and he comes in, it's after 30 days already, almost basically after the Shloshim, the 30-day period. And he comes in, he has no idea what he's going to say. He introduces himself as a rabbi from Jerusalem, and he starts talking to the parents. The parents are just sitting there quiet. And something came to mind that he felt that he should say before he left. He said, it says in the book of King, one of the books that King David wrote, Tehillim, the book of Psalms, it says, Yancha Hashem b'yem tzara, that Hashem should answer us during this challenging time. Yiten l'chol kilvavecha v'chalatzascha, He give us our whole heart, His ideas. Yimali Hashem v'kol mishal yisecha, which means that Hashem has the power to give salvation even under the most duress situations. When things are crazy and turmoil, Hashem has the power instantly, like this, to make everything go away. And he says to the couple, he says, this is what King David wrote. And King David was someone that went through tremendous amount of tragedy. And he says to them, he says, it's kedai to ma'od, chazek b'tfilah. It's very important to be strengthened right now during this time in davening, because Hashem can make everything happen. And he says to this couple, right before he walks out, he says, think about it. Sarah Imenu, our grandmother Sarah, had a baby when she was in her 90s. She was in her 90s. Anything's possible. And he walks out of the house. I don't know if I would say something like that. If I did, I would probably never be asked to come back in again. But this is what Reb Daniel Achyon, this rabbi that lives in Jerusalem, last thing that he said to this couple. The couple said, okay, thank you, and he left. A year goes by. It says, a year and a half goes by, Reb Daniel Achyon gets a phone call. And it's from this couple, and he said, Mazel Tov, we had twins. I want to tell you, this couple, the wife was in her 50s. She was in her 50s, and they had twins. And they said to Reb Daniel Achyon, remember what you told us? We want you to come to the bris. He traveled all the way from Jerusalem back all the way up north to Tzfat. And it says when he walked in, the lady, the husband and the wife, each one were holding another child, two boys. And he made a bracha, shechiyanu v'kimanu v'gyanu zman hazeh. That again, Hashem sustained us, made a massive miracle. That this couple that was in their 50s, that had such a hard time having children, that basically gave up on having any more children. But they took the words of this rabbi and they didn't forget it. And somehow they tried again, and Baruch Hashem, whatever it was, Hashem blessed them with twins. It's a crazy that even no matter what challenge someone's going through, it's no such thing as it's all lost. Hashem can make instantly a change and things can go away. I want to end off with a fascinating story. Again, I want to share with you the story is not because as kind of to show what I did, but in a way, it's a lesson that when an opportunity comes by of doing chesed, of helping somebody else, especially during this time, which is what Hashem wants us to do, to strengthen our bein adam lechavera, which means to strengthen our interpersonal relationships, to get better with that. I was dating my wife, Shani. We didn't date that long. I basically, for those of you that know the story, I met her at a Shabbos table. I did not such an orthodox thing. I kind of was my own matchmaker, thank God, Baruch Hashem. But it's a whole story for in itself. Maybe one day, for those of you who don't know, you can call me afterwards. I'll tell you the story. But basically, it went amazing. It went very, very quick. She was the first girl I ever dated. It went very, very, very quick. And it went so quick that it basically got my mother-in-law very nervous. She's like, we didn't really do that much checking in. How do we know this guy is like the real deal? He stalks out my daughter the whole year. And then it just, the dating is so easy. My daughter's like hung on over him. Like something's off. Something is weird. And she got very nervous. When I was dating my wife, I was living at my cousin's house in Brooklyn, New York, in Flatbush. Her name is Shandy Braun. Shandy Braun lives by Avenue N and the East 33rd Street. And I was going to services every morning while I was dating Shani at this shul called Landau's. Landau's is a shul on Avenue L and East 8th Street. It's basically a shul that has a minyan. Every 15 minutes, another service is going on. So whenever time you wake up in the day, 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30, 11 o'clock, literally every single day, it's amazing. You just go over there, and then there's another one starting right away. It's called the Minyan Factory. That's what they call it. So I was going there, and I davened. It was like 10:30 in the morning because our dates didn't go usually till the afternoon, till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So I had plenty of time to like sleep in. And I went to services. I came out of davening, and right away, as soon as I come out of the shul, there was a guy, old man, who's wearing yarmulke, and he's covered in garbage bags. I promise you, he had the smell of such a strong urine stench that I like people that walk by him walk like literally across the street to get around. So I come around and I see, and obviously he's collecting charity. So right away I take out $1, I give him $1, and he says, thank you. He says, could you do me a favor, please? I said, yeah. He says, could you drive me to Borough Park? I said, do you say Borough Park? He's like, yeah, Borough Park. I said, yeah, okay, no problem. I wasn't in a rush. I wasn't going anywhere. My date's not till later. I have nothing to really do that day. So why can't I drive the guy to Borough Park, which is around 20 minutes direction out of the way where I needed to go? But again, I wasn't in a rush. So I felt there was an opportunity to just say yes. I was driving my cousin's car at the time, like a minivan that it was leather seats. And I drove, we're talking about in June. It was boiling hot outside. And if I closed the windows, the strong smell, I was gacking. You've never seen in my life. I tell you, I was going crazy. So literally, I rolled down the window, and my head's out the window while the guy's in the car. And he says to me, he says, hey, maybe you want to close the window and put on the air conditioning. I said, no, I don't think it's working. I was so nervous that if God forbid I did close the window, I would literally start vomiting, something like that in the car. So I kind of just left the windows down, didn't make him feel bad. But I was driving with my head like out the window. On the way to Borough Park, I stop at a red light. A cop car pulls right next to me because my head's out the window. And he's like, hey, buddy, it's around 90 degrees outside. Why don't you roll through the window? I'm like, yeah, I don't think it's working so well. And I drive the guy to his house, wherever he was staying, whatever he got up on some street. And then he said, thank you. And I drove back to my cousin's house. And I asked my cousin, I said, so sorry, the car really a little bit smells, the seats and everything. I'm going to take your car for a car wash. He says, no, don't worry about it. We're getting rid of the van anyway. It's an old van. I said, no, I feel bad, this and that. She goes, you gave, why is this? I said, I gave that guy, this old man with the bag. You gave that guy a ride, the bag man? I said, I don't know, bag man. I'm from Toronto. I don't know a bag man. We don't know bag man. He says, nobody gives that guy a ride. It's like he smells so. I said, what do you mean the guy asked me for a ride? I'm not doing it. I'm going to tell him no. She goes, wow, it's amazing. I'm like, I'm not amazing. I wasn't so busy. Why not do a mitzvah? That night, my mother-in-law calls my cousin. They kind of knew each other. And she says, listen, I'm freaked out about this whole dating thing. It's going too well. I think there's definitely skeletons in the closet. You always hear, there's something there. Tell me something about Fully that I need to know because I'm just freaked out. It's going too well. She says, you want to hear something about Fully? He gave the bag man a ride from Avenue L, from Landau's to Borough Park, 20-minute drive. She goes, he gave the bag man? Okay, that's it. I want him as a son-in-law. Guys, I promise you, I'm not telling you the story because this was the thing that kind of calmed my mother-in-law down, and then everything was uphill from there. I'm just telling you that, again, it was an easy mitzvah. It wasn't a big deal. But there's so many times that there's opportunities to help people that come our way. And so many times we have the inkling right away, that our natural thing that comes to our head, oh yeah, I can't right now. I don't have time. I'm busy doing something else. We prioritize other things when we know deep down, just do it. What's the big deal? Why not? Help somebody out. Do another mitzvah for somebody. Another act of kindness can change the whole thing of what we're going through. And again, I want to leave off with that message that Hashem is testing us, but Hashem loves the Jewish people. Ellie! And I want to end off with something that we've never done before, but I think it's important to do. There's a famous verse that's a song that we're going to sing, Ellie and I, right now. to you. You want to come here and say hello to everybody. My son Ellie, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
My oldest son. They're all saying hi. Rabbi Yitz has the words, if he's able to put it up, the famous words that we actually sing this during the time of before Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Lemancha Hashem Elokeinu, that we say that Hashem, here we go. Lemancha Elokeinu asei v'loilonu reya midasenu dal v'rekim hanesham alach v'aguf palach chusa al malach hanesham alach. That again, for Hashem, at the end of the day, Hashem made us. We stand in front of Him. He made our bodies, He made our souls, and Hashem should have mercy on us. We're all in His hands. How much we think we're in control of the world, we're really not. Everything is in Hashem's hands. So Ellie and I are going to sing a song. We want to ask everybody to listen, and again, to kind of end off in a positive way. Okay. Is that good?
Perfect.
Okay. L'ma'amcha Elokeinu aseh v'lo ilonu re'ei amidoseinu dalim v'rekim l'ma'amcha Elokeinu aseh v'lo ilonu re'ei amidoseinu dalim v'rekim hamisham alach ve'halot palach chusa al malach hanisham alach oy hanisham alach ve'halot palach chusa al malach hanisham alach. Okay, guys, I want to how it sounds over the computer. I want to wish everybody an incredible Shabbos. This should be a Shabbos of Jewish unity, of everybody inspired to do more and to grow as a Jew. And again, hashtag, thank God, it's
Shabbos.
Shabbos. Thank you, everybody.
We miss
And,
you guys.
Really, we'll be in touch. Everyone have a good Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi. You too.
Yashikoach.
Thank you.
Beautiful, Rabbi. Beautiful.
Beautiful.